Hello, welcome to our writing lesson today. It's nice to have you here with me. Now, those of you who watched the video yesterday saw me read the story Ponyella. And I am going to retell this story to you just to demonstrate once again how to retell a story. A lot of you need some practice with this. Some of you just tell the end of the story, or some of you just tell the beginning, or some of you just say who's in the story. So I want to remind you that there are a lot of different parts to retelling a story. And so I'm going to be doing that with you in just a moment. But I'd like to review with you things that you were learning with Ms. W. Now, I was texting with Ms. W today, and she said to say hi to all of you and that she misses you. She's doing well, and she's excited to see you again sometime in the future. So let's go over what you were doing with her. Now, you'll remember this, you had to do a lot of writing. Well, you're off the hook today. Even I'm not going to be writing, I'm just going to be talking about each one of these things. So let's begin with the setting. Now, if you remember, the setting is where and when a story takes place. So in the case of Ponyella, the where is on Ponyella's ranch and also at the contest. Now, I can't remember the name of the contest. So this is another good thing to do when you're retelling. Go back into the story and check details. It's not cheating, it's not a test. All you're doing is looking for details to make better connections and remember what you saw before. This is why I didn't remember. It's the Tippington 25th Annual Grand Royal Pony Championship. You can see why maybe I didn't remember that. All right, so that is the where. As for the when, the book doesn't say exactly, but you'll notice we have things like cars and trucks. And we've got a princess who does not, wear a fancy dress and sit on a throne. She has horses and rides in a car. So I think we could say that this story takes place kind of in the present, not long ago, that's for sure. Now let's move on to the characters. Now the characters are the people or animals in the story. I had to add that here because in this case, the main character, the character who the story is mostly about, is not a human being. It is a pony named Ponyella. So she would be the main character. Now, other characters in the story are the two evil stepsisters. We'll talk more about that a little bit later. But we have Plumpkin and Bun Bun. I love those names, by the way. I think that's really funny. There's the new owner. And I assume there's an old owner too, which we never actually meet the first owners of the ranch. And we only see the new owner on this page. She's not a super important character. We also have the princess. I'll see if I can find a closer picture of her. Yes, here you can see her a little more clearly here. And you can see another character here, although he's in disguise. This is the mouse. And I'm going to have to double check the book to remember his name. Here we go. Well, it's nice and simple. Sam the mouse, and who turns into the driver for this competition. And of course, we have one more character right here, the fairy godmare. Not the fairy godmother, the fairy godmare. So those are the characters in this story. Now let's move on to beginning, middle, and end. When you do the beginning, the middle, and the end, you don't have to tell every single detail. If I wanted every detail, I would just reread the book. This is a retelling. We only tell the most important parts. So the beginning of the story, I would say, is that Ponyella's ranch is sold to a new owner. 2 new horses come to live there, and they are mean to her. I would say that's the beginning. And it's a little bit long, but if I just say Ponyella lives on a ranch, we're missing some really important details. We need to get those 2 new characters in there and explain what kind of a situation she's living in. Now, I would say then the middle of the story is that there is this competition, which I'm not going to look up again, Tippington something, something, something. Yes, there's a competition, and with a little help from the fairy godmare, Ponyella goes in disguise. All right. Now, the end of the story is the princess shows up with the shoe that Ponyella lost. figures out that Ponyella is the pony that she saw in the competition and decides to buy her and keep her, and they live happily ever after. Of course, there's also that great part right at the end of the book where Plumpkin and Bun Bun end up working at children's birthday parties. But the more important ending is what happens to Ponyella, because she's the main character. Now let's move on to the problem and the solution. Now, if you watched the check-in for today, that was our word today, so you can see why I brought it up. I thought I would explain it beforehand, but just in case you missed it or you've forgotten since then, the solution is how you fix a problem. So that's why you have a problem and a solution. A story that just has a problem and never fixes it is kind of unsatisfying. You want to have a solution to your story that makes sense and makes everybody happy. At least a lot of stories end like that. Not all of them, but a lot of stories do. So I would say the problem in this story is that Ponyella is living a miserable life with mean horses. Now, the solution to her problem is to show the princess what a wonderful jumper she is so that the princess wants to buy her. You see, in this story, it's not so much about her looking beautiful. You know, in the Cinderella story, a lot of it is about Cinderella changing out of her rags and looking beautiful and going and dancing with the prince. Now, the fairy godmare does make her look beautiful again for the contest. But what really impresses the princess is how well Ponyella can jump. And so that's what really gets her out of her problem. She actually fixes the problem herself by jumping her best and working her hardest. So I think that's kind of a cool way, actually. So those are the different parts of the story. So as you can see, just by answering these, I've explained this whole story. Now, if you wanted all the details, you'd just go back and reread the story. If you were explaining this to someone, they would probably be really interested to read it because it's a pretty neat idea. If you are giving someone a retelling and you're trying to get them interested in a book, you might not want to tell them the ending or the solution, because that is what we call a spoiler, boys and girls. And you know that many people don't like spoilers. So if you're just trying to get someone to read the book themselves, skip that part. However, if a teacher just asks you to do a retelling or to do what we call a summary of a story, this is what you're going for. Okay, great. So what I would encourage you to do, choose a book that you have at home. Any book, doesn't matter. A book that you're familiar with, though, would be the best. But if you're not, reread it. A storybook's a great choice. If you are at a point where you read novels, you can do that. It's more complicated and it takes a little longer. But you certainly can do this for a novel as well. But let's say it's a picture book. So you would go in here and you would do the setting, the characters, the beginning, middle, end, the problem, and the solution. Just for a real quick example before I finish this off, I read The Runaway Pancake in our daily check-in today. So why don't we use this as another example of setting, characters, beginning, middle, end, problem, and solution. So in this one, the setting is at Auntie May's house and in the countryside nearby. The characters are the Runaway Pancake, of course. We have Auntie May, Old Dog Tray, the cow, the bear, the wolf, the fox, the dog. I know there's more. Donkey. Okay. You know, I sang that song so many times over, I thought I would have it memorized by now, but apparently, I'm just going to double check. See? We're going to check the book. Auntie May, Old Dog Tray, the cow, the donkey, the wolf, the bear, the fox, and the Runaway Pancake. So there are the characters. Now, I would say the main character would be the Runaway Pancake. The story is named after him, and he's on every page. Even the page after he's been eaten, he's on that page, so he's pretty important. So, beginning of the story. Auntie May bakes the Runaway Pancake, and he runs away from her. The middle of the story. All sorts of animals try to eat the Runaway Pancake, but he keeps running away, he's too fast. The end of the story, the fox tricks the pancake into coming close enough so he can eat them. Everyone's so angry, they chase the fox away, and the pancake sings a sad song because he's still alive inside the fox's tummy. It's kind of a weird story, isn't it? All right, problem and solution. Well, this one's interesting. because I think that the solution is probably not a very happy one for anybody. So the problem is that the runaway pancake refuses to be eaten. Now, if you look at it from the pancake's perspective, I don't think any of us really want to be eaten. So I think it's a problem from everyone else's perspective, not from his. Now the solution is that the fox gets to eat the pancake. Now, of course, nobody's happy about this in the end because the other people who chased after the fox, or after the pancake, I mean, don't get any lunch. The pancake gets eaten. He's not happy about that. And the fox in the end isn't happy either because, yeah, he got a pancake lunch, but then he gets chased out of his home and never gets to come back. So I would say that that ending is not especially satisfying in a sense. It's an interesting idea, isn't it? All right, so I hope that gave you some ideas of how you would do a retelling. If you do a retelling of a story, there are a few things you could do to let me know how it goes. If you're on Google Classroom, you could comment under this video because I post the videos on there too. So you can go in there and you can type, hey, Mrs. Cron, I did a retelling of, I don't know, Goldilocks and the Three Bears, and this is what I said, and my sister liked it, whatever. You could also, if you're really ambitious, get someone to take a video of you with their phone of you doing a retelling. I mean, look at me, I'm doing videos. They're not amazing, but they're working okay. So I'm sure your video would be fantastic too. And then you can share a video on there if you like. Google Classroom is not public, so nobody would see your video unless you want them to. Or if you like, when I call your home to see how things are going, you can tell me all about it. So I will leave that up to you. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you tomorrow.